back to Ready for Brazil. This lesson we're going to talk about locations and a few other verbs that have to do with those, specifically ter, haver. And you're going to see it can be kind of complicated the way the Brazilians say things sometimes. So let's get to it, folks. So the verb ter means to have, right? So I have the verb conjugation chart right here. Very simple. Eu tenho, você tem, nós temos, vocês têm. If you notice right here, the circumflex above the vocês têm, and there's not one here. I was actually taught by a Brazilian professor that nowadays you can actually write it the same way without a problem. Then again, the sound is more or less the same. It doesn't really make a difference, just a small grammatical thing that seems to trip people up. But anyway, let's get back to it. Let's do an example. All right, so I have. So eu tenho carro. Carro. So I have a car. Right? Very simple. This is just the most basic way of using the verb ter, to have. So let's do another one. Vocês têm uma casa. Right? You have a house. Very simple. And just keep in mind that I will continue to put these pronouns here in these separate charts just so you remember what pronoun is attached to what verb form here, right? So that should help you out. So the verb haver is going to be the most difficult and tricky part of this lesson. Haver, how can I explain? It pretty much means there is, more or less, right? So really the only time you'll ever see the word haver is in this form, right? It's the ele, ela form, right? The third person. So there's really only a couple ways you can actually use this. So you may see it written down, but there are some easy ways to circumvent this. So here's an example. Okay, so there are 3 people in the street, right? So this goes to there are, right? Há 3 pessoas na rua. There are 3 people in the street. Okay? Há banco aqui. Há banco aqui. There is a bank here. Right? So, as you can see, there's really only one way of using this. It's kind of strange because up until a couple days ago, I actually never looked at the full verb conjugation chart of the I, you, he, she, we, they are, and there actually are those conjugations of this verb, except that I have never seen them, nor do I think there is very much use for them. So don't worry about that. So just remember, if you want to say there is, you can say Now, I had mentioned something earlier, I'm just going to erase this, that there is another way of writing there is, right? So I will leave ha there, and I will explain the other way. So, pessoas na rua. There are people in the street. Now, this is the other way, and the easiest way, and the most common. I don't really think I've ever heard a Brazilian say this, pessoas na rua. Maybe if you're writing it down, potentially, but when you're talking, everybody, including myself, you would just say this. You would use the verb ter that we just learned in the previous slide, right? Tem pessoas na rua. Literally translates to have people in the street, or there are people in the street, right? Literally, it's have people in the street. That is perfectly acceptable. Perfectly acceptable. So you could say há pessoas na rua or tem pessoas na rua. You could say há quatro gatos aqui. Or you can say, tem quatro gatos aqui. There are 4 cats here. There are 4 cats here. Literally has, this literally translates into has 4 cats here. But the meaning of it is there are 4 cats here. So my recommendation, just skip using the verb haver, ha altogether. Right? It's kind of tricky, and tem is much more easy to use, and you'll practice using the verb ter. So we're going to switch gears a little bit now. We're going to talk about describing some locations. So you see what I have, these little charts here. So este or esta, esse, esse, aquele, aquela. So the very first one is closest to you, right? So if you are at the table, right, and someone, asks something of you, right, for a fork, a plate, whatever, right? If they ask something of you, they would use this, right, esse. So I'm actually going to start with esse first, just because I think it's a little bit easier to explain, right? So you can say, give me that fork. Give me that fork, the one that's closest to you, right? So and you don't really have to understand what this means right now. Me da literally means give me, but I don't want you to worry about the conjugation. I just want you to see how I'm using the word esse, right? So me da esse garfo. Give me that fork that is close to you, right? The second person. Close to the second person. Este or esta would mean that you were talking about something that is closest to you, to the person talking. So you can say, if you are listening to music, right? No, let's not. Let's make it even easier. Esta mesa é grande. Esta mesa é grande. This table is big. So if you're sitting at a table, right? Say you're in a furniture store, right? Esta mesa é grande. Esta aqui. The closest one to you, right? So if you're petting a cat, right, and you like the cat, you can say, Esse gato é legal. Legal means cool, right? So este gato é legal. This cat, closest to me, the one that I'm petting, is cool. Go back to the second person. Me dá esse garfo. Give me the fork closest to you. And then the one that's furthest away would be aquele. So, aquela casa pequena. Aquela casa é pequena. That house is small. That, far away, the furthest away. It's not near you. It's not near the second person. It's far away. Okay? So, to be honest, I really only use esse, essa, and aquele, aquela, just because, I mean, people will understand what you're saying if you use these interchangeably. I believe people will understand you. They understand me if I use them interchangeably, and I've heard Brazilians use these interchangeably. But just if you want to get absolutely correct, esta or este is closest to you. Esse, essa is closest to the second person, the person you're talking to, the person you're giving the command to, for example. And aquele, aquela is furthest away. Okay, now we're going to start combining some words together. So we just learned este, esse, aquele. So now we're going to combine those with the word for in, right? And that's how you say something is in or on an object, right? So Ele está nesse carro. He is, right? Remember the verb to be, estar. So he is in this car, right? So the word for in and the word for this get combined to that, right? Ele está neste carro. He is in this car. He is in this car. Ele está neste carro. Same thing for this one. O dinheiro está nessa sacola. The money is in this bag or that bag. It's the second person, right? So close to the second person. So if you're talking to your friend, they say, where's the money? O dinheiro está nesse sacola. Think of it pointing to the person who asked the question. Right? Where's the money? To respond, you point to the person and say, the money is in this bag. O dinheiro está nesse sacola. Closest to you, the second person. And right here, let's combine some things. Okay. So we learned the verbs querer and morar, I want and to live. So we'll just combine this. So I want to live in that city, right? So just combine in that becomes in that. Naquele, cidade. You'll notice cidade is a word that has a as the article, a cidade, feminine more or less. So then at the end of the word, it isn't naquele, it's naquela. Right? So let's talk about now about getting around, right? So for the most part, there are only two ways of doing this, right? So for all modes of transportation, really you can say de carro, de trem, de avião, de plane, right? So for all methods of transportation, you can just say de carro. I'll give an example. Eu vou de carro. I go by car, right? So when you get to Brazil, if you are at the airport and you're thinking about transportation, how you're getting to one place to the other, somebody asks you, oh, how are you getting to the hotel? Eu vou de carro. How are you getting to the airport? Eu vou de trem, right? And of course you can say ele vai de trem. It's interchangeable, right? Now if you're going by foot, of course, that's the one difference. So eu vou a pé. Vamos a pé. You go by foot. Okay, so pretty easy, right? All the methods of transportation that involve car, public transport, you say eu vou de carro. I go of car, literally, right? So I go by car. The only other difference is if you're going by foot, you would say a pé. Eu vou a pé. So let's do a little bit of a summary here. So I'm going to read this first in English, and then I'll read it in Portuguese, right? So, hi Luis, how are you? I'm well, George. What are you doing here today? There's going to be a party today, here in our neighborhood. Great, but I think our neighborhood is small. Is there enough space in these streets? Yeah, of course. There are a lot of restaurants and stores here for the people. Those people that normally go downtown are going to come here. Honestly, my sister is coming by bus. My brother, by foot. Whoa, there's people arriving already. Let's prepare. So, oi Luiz, como você está? Eu estou bem, Jorge. O que você está fazendo aqui hoje? Vai ter uma festa hoje, aqui no nosso bairro. Ótimo, mas eu acho que o nosso bairro é pequeno. Tem espaço suficiente nestas ruas? Sim, claro. Há muitos restaurantes e lojas aqui para as pessoas. Aquelas pessoas que normalmente visitam o centro vão vir aqui. Na verdade, minha irmã está vindo de ônibus e meu irmão a pé. Opa, tem pessoas chegando já. Vamos preparar. So, a couple things. Just let me circle some of the things we talked about today. So, if you remember, the word ter we learned today, right? So have, right? But it can also mean that there is, right? You can use it as a substitute for haver, there is, right? So vai ter uma festa hoje literally translates to going to have a party today, right? But in this case, it means there's going to be, right? There's going here, vai is the verb here. To have, there's going to have a party today. Well, it really just means there's going to be a party today. Vai ter uma festa hoje. Going to be a party today. Here in our bairro, neighborhood, bairro. The double R is like an H sound, right? Bairro. One more time, I have the verb tem aqui. So, tem espaço suficiente nessas ruas. So, you could say, há espaço, there is space, question, right? But it's like I said, it's common and easier to say, tem espaço, has space, has sufficient space in these streets. So, tem espaço suficiente nessas ruas. And you see here I use the verb há, right? So there are many restaurants. You could have also used the word tem here as well. There are many restaurants and stores here. Has a lot of restaurants and stores. There are also, right? So just to reiterate, tem and ha, when you talk about an event, something that's happening, right? Interchangeable. Há muitas pessoas, tem muitas pessoas. Same thing. So here I use aqueles, those people, right? Those people furthest away. Those people over there. Those people that normally visit Centro downtown vão vir aqui. So vão is a conjugation of ir, we've learned that, right? And vir is a word we have not learned. It means to come, right? So they are going to come here. And then here I used some of the methods of transportation. So está vindo, they are coming, right? Vir, vindo, they're coming de ônibus, by bus. And my brother by foot. And then one last time I used the verb ter to explain that there's a situation happening, right? So, opa, tem pessoas chegando já. Literally translates to have people arriving already, but it means there are people arriving already. So, I hope you enjoyed that lesson. I think we actually got to some really good things, especially some ways of talking. We really talked about a couple things, specifically ter, tem, and a. Those are things that you will definitely see in Brazil, and especially the verb ter, tem, right? You'll definitely see people using that a lot. And I think the methods of transportation will help when you're trying to navigate around Brazil. So I hope you learned a lot today, folks. And don't forget, ReadyForBrazil.com is up and fully functional, so you have all the videos there. You also have a bunch of resources. So to accompany this lesson, we actually have a whole PDF worksheet that you can go through just to review. And that's the case for all the lessons. All the lessons have a PDF worksheet that you can download, save, whatever you want to do, print it out, just to practice everything we talked about in this lesson so you can yourself be ready for Brazil. Until next time, folks, take care.